All right, let's dive in. Today we're exploring the work of Stuart Wilde. Kind of a blend of Eastern thought, but also some really unique ideas about personal power.
Yeah.
We're looking specifically at a YouTube video.
Okay.
It's called Stuart Wilde Infinite Self, 33 Steps to Reclaiming Your Inner Power.
Okay.
And we're not going to hit every single one of those 33 steps.
Right.
But we're going to try to pull out the ones that are most interesting, the most intriguing, and the ones that have some practical value for the listener.
One of the things about Stuart Wilde is he wasn't just talking the talk. He was walking the walk.
Yeah.
And there's a story about him where he decided to demonstrate this idea of radical detachment.
Okay.
And so he decided to leave his apartment.
Oh, wow.
And I don't mean like move out. I mean leave.
Just work away?
Leave everything.
Wow.
The only thing he took with him were mirrors.
Really?
Yeah.
What was he trying to say with that?
It was about non-attachment, not just to material things, but this idea that we get so tied to these roles we play, the structures of our lives.
Yeah.
And he was really demonstrating this idea of letting go.
Yeah.
Which comes from Taoism, which he was very influenced by.
Okay, so it's not just getting rid of stuff, it's like an inner letting go as well.
Absolutely. It's getting off that emotional roller coaster, really, the ups and downs of life, external events, but even our own reactions to things.
Right.
He said that was crucial to having serenity and peace. You know, if you're always reacting, you can't be free.
This makes me think of all the times I stress out about things that are totally out of my control.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm making myself suffer.
That's exactly what he said. Negative energy, it all comes from the ego.
Right.
And when we're, all wrapped up in the ego's desires and the expectations,
right,
that's where the suffering comes from.
So how do we get out of that? How do we escape that cycle?
Well, this is where he introduces this concept of the infinite self, which is who we really are.
Okay.
The eternal, powerful essence of us. Not the physical body, not the personality.
Right, right.
He has this great line. He says, if today was your last day on Earth, the only tragedy would be if you hadn't experienced life properly.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
It makes you think,
It really does.
Am I really living in a way that honors that, or am I letting fear and ego kind of run the show?
Are you living a life that's true to yourself?
Yeah.
Or are you caught up in all that noise?
So how do we tap into that infinite self? How do we connect with that?
Well, he says the starting point, and this is kind of interesting, is desire.
Oh.
But not just any desire.
Right.
This deep desire for something more, for a deeper understanding.
Okay.
He calls people who feel this fringe dwellers.
Fringe dwellers.
Yeah, the people that don't quite fit in,
okay,
with mainstream society, because they sense there's something more going on.
Right.
It's not all just what we see on the surface.
Yeah, it's like they're on the edge of something bigger.
Yeah.
That they can't quite grasp.
He says the people who are drawn to his teachings,
yeah,
they probably identify as fringe dwellers.
Interesting.
So we're all kind of on this journey together.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I remember being really struck by his ideas about belief and concentration.
Okay.
He really believes that what we focus on, we create.
Right.
And he uses some pretty
vivid,
almost shocking examples to get this point across.
Like what?
Well, one that comes to mind, he says, if you constantly say this job is a pain in the ass, the infinite energy within you takes it literally and you get hemorrhoids.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
That's
little jarring, but
it gets your attention.
It makes you think about, the power of your words and your beliefs.
Yeah.
Even the ones that seem kind of insignificant.
Right.
What you focus on, you empower.
So it's really about, for the listener, it's about, becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
And choosing to focus on what we want to create rather than what we don't want.
Yeah, moving from that lack mentality to abundance.
Now, he also talks about expanding our awareness through feeling, which kind of sounds a little counterintuitive.
It does.
How do you feel your way to greater awareness?
Well, he believes that everything is energy, right?
Yeah.
And energy emits a feeling.
Okay.
And, we're used to our five senses.
Right.
But he says we need to go beyond that.
Okay.
And really kind of tap into the subtle energy and feel the world around us.
So it's like developing a sixth sense, an intuitive sense of the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And he actually gives us a little challenge to try ask your infinite self to reveal something new in the next 24 hours.
Okay.
And just, be open to seeing what that is.
Be more present.
Yeah. And observe with heightened awareness, what shows up.
I like that.
See what you find.
It all kind of goes hand in hand with his ideas about courage, trust, and vulnerability, too.
It does, yeah.
Because it takes courage to kind of step outside the familiar.
Yeah, to go beyond the ego.
Trust in something beyond what you can see.
To really trust the process.
Yeah.
Even when you're not sure where it's going.
Right, right.
And that leads to this idea that vulnerability is actually a strength on this path.
Which sounds like a contradiction.
It does on the surface.
Right, yeah.
But it's about being open, authentic,
right.
letting go of the need to defend, to pretend.
Yeah.
And that's where real connection, begins.
With yourself and others.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, something that I thought was really interesting is he doesn't see negative energy as a bad thing.
Right. He doesn't think negativity is inherently bad.
It's more like a signal.
Yeah, a reflection of where the ego is resisting.
Interesting.
What is, true understanding comes from letting go of that emotional roller coaster.
Right.
And accepting what is.
Yeah.
Without judgment.
Right, without judgment.
Even death, he says, is not an ending. It's just a transition.
That transition.
He says we're actually the most alive the moment after we die.
Wow, okay.
Because we've shed the limitations of the physical body.
Right, right.
And we reconnect with that infinite self, which is eternal.
That's pretty profound.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're, struggling with...
Wrestling with those big existential questions.
Yeah, for sure.
But he doesn't just give us these big concepts to think about.
Yeah.
He's big on discipline.
Okay.
Self-discipline, he sees that as a tool to strengthen our willpower.
Okay.
And gain control of the ego.
Okay.
And he has this really interesting take on moving stones.
Moving stones.
Yeah, it's this exercise where, you physically move stones.
Okay.
From one spot to another at the same time every day.
All right.
As a way to cultivate discipline.
Okay.
Train the mind.
Interesting to follow through.
So it's a physical action.
Yeah.
But with a mental and spiritual benefit.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool. And it helps build that inner strength to then do things like meditate.
Okay.
Which he's a big proponent of.
Yeah.
Calming the mind, connecting with that infinite self.
Right.
And he also believes that our external reality is often a reflection of our internal state.
So if you want to change the outside,
you got to look inside.
I'm going to clean up the inside.
Exactly.
I like that.
Now, it's one thing to understand these ideas.
Right.
But he says belief is key.
Belief?
Yeah, you have to believe in it for it to work.
Okay.
He's got this principle, word as law.
Word is law. Yeah.
Being impeccable with your word and honoring your commitments, that strengthens our willpower.
Right.
And it actually helps us manifest what we want.
Okay.
He even talks about, human energy being like an oscillation.
Okay.
And the faster that oscillation, the faster you manifest things.
Okay.
And that speed increases through spiritual growth.
Oh, I like that analogy.
So it's about aligning our words and actions with our true intentions.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to acceptance.
Acceptance.
Which is a big theme for him.
Okay.
It's about accepting reality as it is without resistance.
Without judgment.
Just observing.
Just observing.
Yeah, letting go of that need to control.
Right.
And he has this interesting exercise for expanding awareness.
Okay.
Through observation.
Okay.
He calls it touching the subtle energy of others.
Touching the subtle energy.
Yeah. And this is where, it gets a little...
Ooh.
But he suggests visualizing, extending your hand into someone's heart space.
Okay.
And pulling back a molecule of their energy.
Okay.
And just sensing the feeling of it without judgment.
All right.
It's about connecting on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Beyond just words and appearances.
I like that.
And that takes us to another one of his core principles, which is non-attachment.
Non-attachment.
Yeah, he talks about holding on to nothing. Recognizing that everything is temporary. Right. Possessions, relationships. Experiences, even our bodies, everything.
Wow.
And he's not saying to be cold or unfeeling.
Right.
But it's about recognizing impermanence.
So that you can experience it more fully.
And find freedom and peace of mind.
I like that.
And this ties into his emphasis on silence and self-reliance.
Okay.
Not needing to explain yourself or justify yourself to others.
Right. Yeah.
It conserves energy.
Yeah.
Keeps you centered.
Yeah, it's about trusting your own inner knowing.
Exactly.
Right, right.
And as we purify our thoughts, emotions, actions, that inner knowing gets more refined.
Makes sense.
Being vigilant against negativity. Choosing actions that are for the highest good.
Right, right.
And he has this really interesting thing about anger. He says all anger stems from loss.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not about what someone did to you. It's about
something that you feel like you've lost.
Interesting.
Which helps you process it differently.
Yeah, it's not a personal attack.
Right.
It's a response to a perceived loss.
Yeah.
It's a much different way to look at it.
He's also really big on respect for all living things.
Yeah.
Not just humans, but animals, plants, the planet itself.
Yeah.
Recognizing that interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
And that translates into how we treat each other.
Right.
Avoiding unnecessary violence, criticism, judgment.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it all comes back around.
And that brings us to this idea of action through non-action.
Action through non-action.
Or effortless effort.
Okay.
He says true power comes from aligning with the natural flow of the universe.
Okay.
Not from forcing or pushing.
So it's not about being passive, it's about...
No, it's about aligning your actions with a greater force.
I see.
He uses this great example of a car salesman.
Okay.
The harder he pushes, the more the customer resists.
Right, yeah.
So sometimes it's about letting go of that need to control.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that leads to this idea of living in alignment with what he calls the sacred way.
The sacred way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that involves, infusing your actions with intention, reverence, embracing simplicity,
right,
decluttering.
Yeah. Getting rid of all the extra stuff.
Yeah. Both physically and mentally.
Right. Creating that space.
Yeah. For the infinite self to emerge.
It's like stripping away the unnecessary.
Exactly.
And focusing on what really matters.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to that powerful message about death,
Mm-hmm. It's not an end.
Right.
It's about living fully now.
Right.
Knowing that this time is precious.
Yeah.
He also cautions against becoming, a guru, he says.
Right.
Spiritual egotism.
Right.
True growth is about humility, service, helping others.
Right.
Without needing recognition.
Right. Not about your ego.
Yeah, it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Walking the walk. I like that.
And that leads into, he talks about the importance of physical discipline.
Physical discipline.
Yeah, taking care of the body.
Okay.
Exercise, diet.
Yeah, it's the vessel.
It's the vessel.
Right.
To experience this life.
Yeah, you got to keep it running.
And then emotional discipline. Detaching from the ups and downs.
Amazing opinions.
Of others. Not becoming emotionless, but learning to observe those emotions.
Exactly.
Without judgment.
And then he talks about mental discipline.
Mental discipline.
Especially in a world that emphasizes the intellect.
Right.
He encourages us to detach from our thoughts.
Okay.
Recognizing we're not our minds.
Right.
And develop a simple, liberating philosophy.
Okay.
For life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, spiritual discipline.
Spiritual discipline.
Staying connected to that inner source.
Okay.
The infinite self.
Right. Through things like meditation, prayer, mindful living.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this leads to what he calls the quest.
The quest.
The journey of transformation. From ego to spirit.
Okay.
Letting go of limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
Aligning with our true nature.
Okay.
He even describes fusion, which is this experience of merging with the infinite self.
Wow.
And that's, deep inner peace, knowing, connection.
Wow.
And then finally, he talks about the initiate.
The initiate.
Which represents that embodiment of the transformed self.
Right. Yeah.
Living from a place of awareness, power, connection.
Wow. So we went through a lot there.
We did.
It's fascinating how he weaves together so many threads. Like, we've got Taoism in there, personal growth, spirituality, but then also these practical techniques. Yes. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and it all comes back to that idea of the infinite self.
The infinite self.
That's really the foundation for everything he talks about.
Like, our power comes from that.
Exactly.
Our creativity, our wisdom.
It all stems from there.
Wow.
And he's really saying that by connecting with that, we can overcome anything.
Right, yeah.
We can live these incredibly fulfilling lives.
Yeah, for sure.
So much to think about.
What's standing out to you the most from all of that?
Well, I keep coming back to his emphasis on the power of belief.
Belief, yeah.
It's, this idea that we create our reality.
Right.
And that it gets dismissed sometimes.
Yeah, it can sound kind of woo-woo.
Yeah, but
And he's so convicted.
He's so convicted.
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
He acknowledges it's hard to shift beliefs.
Right.
But he's like, but it's so powerful when you do.
Right.
So, questioning your assumptions, challenging your beliefs.
Yeah.
Choosing to believe in something bigger.
Something more expansive.
More expansive.
Yeah.
more empowering.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What about you?
I'm really struck by his perspective on negativity and detachment.
Oh, yeah.
His idea that negative energy is just the ego resisting.
Right.
Really liberating.
It does. It takes the sting out of it a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It reframes the challenges.
Yeah. And the opportunities for growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the detachment piece,
yeah.
from both external stuff and internal reactions.
Right.
That's really empowering.
Yeah, it is.
You can choose how you respond.
You can choose rather than just being reactive.
Exactly. You can cultivate peace.
Inner peace.
Inner stability.
Amidst chaos.
Yeah.
And that takes us to those final 3 steps that he talks about: quest, fusion, and the initiate.
Yeah.
It's like a whole spiritual journey he's outlining there.
It is.
The quest being that initial, that spark, that yearning.
Yeah, the desire for something more.
More.
Yeah, that gets you going.
Yeah, that knowing that there's something bigger than what you're currently experiencing. Yeah. And then fusion being that experience of like merging with the infinite self.
Becoming one with it. Yeah. Realizing you're not separate.
Right. Not separate. Yeah. And then the initiate, like the embodiment of that, living that truth.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not about reaching some distant goal.
Right.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
Here and now.
Here and now.
Right.
Good.
So, as we wrap up part 1 here, let's leave our listener with a question to ponder.
Okay.
Wilde suggests that before we were born, we chose to evolve. So, if that's true, what did you come here to learn?
Ooh.
What did you come here to experience?
Good one.
Think about that one.
Yeah.
We'll be back with part 2. See you then.
See ya. Welcome back. Let's continue looking at the final energies that Wilde talks about, this quest, fusion, and the initiate.
Okay.
And he says those mark the culmination of the spiritual journey.
Right.
What she describes.
I'm especially interested in that idea of the quest.
Yeah.
Because that feels like that initial spark.
It is.
That yearning, that gets you going.
It is, he says, when you consciously choose to embark on this quest,
right,
a special energy or a force joins you.
Okay.
And it's ancient and sacred. It's, something beyond our ordinary perception.
Okay.
And it acts as a guide.
So it's like we're not alone on this journey.
No, you're not alone.
There's something helping us along the way.
He says it's available to everyone.
Okay.
But it's often overlooked or ignored because it operates outside the realm of the ego and the intellect.
So it's like tuning into a different frequency.
Exactly.
That's always there, but it's maybe drowned out by all the noise.
Yeah. Of our everyday lives.
All the distractions,
This makes me think of those moments where, like, you get a flash of clarity or inspiration.
Yeah.
That just seems to come out of nowhere.
It could be that.
Yeah.
And what's really inspiring is he believes that this quest is more than just personal growth.
Okay.
He says it's a vital step.
Wow.
In the evolution of humanity.
So our individual journeys are tied to something bigger?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
As more people awaken,
he
says it raises the consciousness.
Of the whole planet.
Of the planet.
Wow.
It's a ripple effect, a collective awakening that leads to, a more conscious and compassionate world.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
It gives me hope,
Yeah.
That even my little efforts can contribute to something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the ego before, and it sounds like there's a kind of battle going on.
There is,
internally between the ego and, he actually says, for true evolution, you have to kill off the ego.
Kill it all.
Not literally, of course.
Right.
But, diminish its hold over us.
Yeah.
And as we connect more deeply with the infinite self,
right,
the ego naturally becomes less dominant.
Less demanding.
More open to change.
So it's not about suppressing it.
No.
It's about shifting that balance of power so that your true self can take the lead.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Moving from reactivity to awareness and choice.
Yeah.
And that brings us to fusion. The experience of merging with the infinite self.
Right.
A state of,
wholeness,
yeah.
Oneness,
he says, that's like the culmination of the quest.
It sounds almost mystical.
It is.
Like achieving enlightenment.
Yeah, there are parallels there. He describes it as this pure awareness, knowing without needing to know.
Okay.
feeling connected to everything.
Wow.
It's not a, overnight thing.
Right.
It's a gradual process.
Yeah.
Shedding the layers
Right.
of conditioning, limiting beliefs.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Yeah.
Until you get to that core.
He says, when you reach that core, there's this unshakable certainty and inner knowing.
Wow.
He even tells a story of, a time when he was feeling unwell, physically drained. And he kind of tapped into that inner dialogue.
Yeah.
And it was like, we're fine. Just this absolute certainty.
It's like accessing a wellspring of strength within.
Yeah.
That's always there no matter what's happening outside.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
I like that. That's really helpful.
And then finally we reach the initiate, the embodiment of the transformed self.
Right.
The person who has integrated all the wisdom,
the insights of
the quest, and fusion.
Okay.
They're living a life that's aligned with their true nature.
Yeah.
It's like they become a beacon of light, inspiring others just by being who they are.
That seems beautiful, but also like a lot of responsibility.
It is, yeah.
Is being an initiate about being perfect?
No, not at all.
Okay.
He acknowledges it's not without challenges.
Right.
It takes courage, commitment.
Yeah.
And that willingness to,
to face the messy parts?
Yeah, the less than perfect parts of ourselves.
So it's embracing the whole journey.
The whole journey.
With all its ups and downs.
Ups and downs, he says, it's challenging.
Right.
But it leads to immense joy, freedom, fulfillment, realizing your potential.
That's pretty amazing.
It is, yeah.
And that's the end of his 33 steps.
That's it, yeah.
But it feels like more of a beginning.
It does.
It's like we've just scratched the surface.
We have, yeah. These are not, rigid rules. They're more like signposts.
Okay.
Pointing us in the right direction.
Right.
Towards this.
More conscious way of being.
Yeah.
So how can we apply these teachings? I mean, it's a lot,
It is a lot.
It can feel a little abstract.
It can. And, one of the things I always come back to is this idea of discipline.
Discipline. Okay.
He sees it as a tool.
Okay.
To cultivate willpower.
Okay.
To align our actions with our purpose.
Right. It's not about punishment.
No, it's not about punishment.
It's about making those choices.
Yeah. Even when it's tough.
Even when they're hard.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some specific ways we can build that discipline?
Well, he talks about that moving stones exercise.
Right. Moving stones.
Yeah. It's about establishing a simple, consistent action.
Right.
To kind of train the mind.
Right.
To overcome resistance.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be physical.
No, it could be anything.
It could be like meditating for 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Or writing a certain number of words.
Yeah.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah. Showing up consistently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Even in small ways.
Yeah.
Building that muscle.
Okay.
Another one, he talks about purifying our thoughts.
Yeah. Purifying our thoughts.
Yeah. Emotions, actions.
Okay.
Becoming aware of that inner dialogue.
Right.
And choosing to focus.
On the positive.
Yeah.
Okay. So noticing when you have a negative thought and consciously replacing it with something more uplifting.
Exactly. Shifting that mindset.
From lack to abundance.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talked to anger a little bit before. He has that interesting perspective where all anger comes from loss.
From loss, yeah.
Which makes it seem less like a personal attack.
Yeah.
And more like a response to an injustice.
To a perceived loss.
Yeah.
It helps you process it more constructively.
It's like shifting from a victim mentality to a place of empowerment. Yeah.
He also talks about non-attachment.
Non-attachment, right?
And it's not about becoming emotionless.
Right.
But it's about
changing your perspective.
Yeah, changing your perspective.
Instead of clinging to things
Yeah.
out of fear or insecurity.
You can appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Without needing to possess it.
Right.
Or control it.
Find freedom in that.
Yeah, find freedom in that.
Yeah.
And that connects to that idea of self-reliance.
Self-reliance, right?
Yeah.
Trusting your gut.
Yeah, trusting your intuition.
Yeah, rather than needing external validation.
Yeah.
He also talks about aligning our lives with the sacred way.
Yeah.
Which I really liked that.
It's about, intention.
Intention.
Reverence. Approaching life with
gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah.
Wonder.
Yeah, recognizing that interconnectedness.
Right, and treating everyone with compassion and respect.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
So it's not just about these abstract concepts. It's about living a better life.
Yeah. Living a better life.
A more meaningful life.
Yeah. Aligned with who you really are.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of his 33 steps.
So where do we go from here? I mean, it's a lot to take in.
It is, yeah.
What are some final thoughts for the listener?
Well, he emphasizes that these are just a starting point.
Right.
The real work
Yeah.
begins when you take this
Yeah.
and apply it.
Put it into practice.
Put it into practice in your own life.
Right.
It's about experimenting, exploring,
Yeah.
finding what works for you.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right. It's a journey.
It's a journey.
It's a continuous journey.
Yeah, and remember, he suggests that you chose to evolve
Before you were born.
before you were even born.
Wow.
So what are you here
Yeah.
to learn?
Yeah.
What are you here to experience?
That's a good question.
It is, and embrace the journey.
Yeah.
Explore the depths of your being and, discover the infinite potential
Yeah.
that's within you.
We've covered so much ground
We have.
in this deep dive into Stuart Wilde's teachings. It's amazing how he brings together so many different ideas.
He does.
From, Eastern mysticism to these very practical techniques.
He's got a very unique perspective, that's for sure.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to touch on some of the more subtle but incredibly powerful shifts that he encourages. And these little nuances, these subtle shifts in thinking can make all the difference, I think.
They really can.
One thing that stood out to me was his emphasis on observation.
Oh, yeah.
Becoming a keen observer of yourself, others, the world around you.
He believes it's key to expanding your awareness and your understanding.
Yeah.
By observing without judgment, without criticism, you can learn so much about the nature of reality.
It's like you become this detective of your own life.
Exactly.
You start to notice things.
Yeah, those patterns,
the
clues.
that you might have missed before.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at everything with fresh eyes.
So it's not just passive watching.
Yeah.
No, it's an active engagement
Yeah, exactly.
with the world. Okay?
And this skill of observation extends inward, too.
So observing your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, but not getting swept away by them.
Just noticing.
Just noticing. So it's like creating that space between you and the experience.
It's that awareness
Right.
that he talks about a lot.
Yeah.
You're not your thoughts.
Right.
You're not your emotions.
You're the observer.
You're the observer. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And remember that thing about touching the subtle energy?
Oh, yeah.
That's another form of observation.
Okay.
It's like tuning into the energy of everything around you.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that one really kind of caught my attention.
Well, he suggests, visualizing, extending a hand into someone's heart space and pulling back like a molecule of their energy and just sensing it. Without such judgment, just feeling it.
So it's almost like developing a sixth sense.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about expanding how you perceive things. Recognizing that interconnectedness.
Yeah, it's a way to connect with people on a much deeper level than just, words.
Beyond the surface.
Yeah, beyond the surface.
And that kind of leads to his understanding of power.
Okay. Yeah.
He says true power doesn't come from force or control, but from within.
It's like that saying, the quieter you become, the more you can hear.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that inner strength.
Right.
That self-reliance, that connection with your infinite self.
Right.
He also talks about action through non-action.
Right.
Or effortless effort.
Effortless effort, yeah.
Yeah,
How do you do that?
I know, it sounds kind of paradoxical.
It's like, how do you make something happen without trying?
Well, have you ever noticed when you try really hard to force something?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of pushes it away.
It backfires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He uses the example of the car salesman.
Yeah.
The harder he pushes, the more the customer resists.
Right, yeah.
So it's about letting go of that need to control.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Trusting the process.
Trusting the process.
Okay.
And that brings us to simplicity.
Simplicity.
Declutter your life.
Physically, mentally.
Physically and mentally, yeah.
Okay.
Creating space for your infinite self to come through.
Yeah, like minimizing your possessions, your commitments, even your thoughts.
Your thoughts.
Create that spaciousness.
Yeah.
I like that he has a really interesting perspective on death.
Yeah, he does.
It's not an end.
No, it's a transition.
It's a transition.
He wants you to confront that fear.
Yeah.
Not by denying it.
Right.
But by understanding it's a natural part of life.
Right.
So that you can embrace this life.
Live fully now.
Live fully now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, even with all these great insights,
Yeah.
Life can still be challenging.
It can.
And he offers some guidance on how to, how to navigate
Yeah.
those difficult situations, emotions.
Yeah, he talks about detachment.
Detachment, okay.
Creating space
Yeah.
between you and the turmoil
Okay.
of the world.
Yeah.
Not in a cold, unfeeling way,
Right.
but as a way to protect your inner peace.
Okay. Yeah, so you have a choice
You have a choice.
in how you respond.
Yeah, are you going to get swept up?
Yeah.
Or are you going to observe it
Yeah.
and choose how you want to react?
Yeah, respond with wisdom.
Yeah, with wisdom and clarity.
Rather than just
just reacting.
blindly reacting.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also, emphasizes self-care.
Self-care.
Yeah, taking time to recharge,
Yeah.
reconnect with yourself,
Yeah.
cultivate well-being.
That's important.
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's essential.
This has been such a rich exploration.
It has.
I feel like we've only scratched the surface
Yeah.
of his teachings, but
Yeah, he doesn't, offer a rigid formula. He's more about,
principles.
principles, perspectives
Yeah.
that you can, adapt
Right.
to your own life.
Yeah, find what works for you.
What works for you, yeah.
It's a continuous journey
It is, yeah.
of growth and discovery.
Yeah.
It's about, becoming more aware,
Mm.
more conscious,
More empowered.
more empowered to create
Yeah.
the reality that you want.
And as you do that,
Yeah.
you contribute
Yeah.
to that collective awakening,
Yeah.
the shift
Yeah.
to a more compassionate, loving world.
Yeah. It's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision.
So as we conclude this deep dive,
Okay.
we encourage you to take some time to reflect on what resonated with you the most.
Yeah.
What insights are you going to carry with you?
Mm-hmm.
What practices are you going to explore?
Yeah, and remember that idea
Yeah.
that you chose this
You chose to evolve.
before you were even born.
Yeah.
What are you here to learn?
Yeah.
What are you here to experience?
That's a great question for all of us.
Yeah.
To contemplate.
Yeah, embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey.
Explore
Yeah.
and discover
Yeah.
the infinite potential within you.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the teachings of Stuart Wilde.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We hope it has sparked a desire to continue exploring and growing. Until next time, keep seeking, keep expanding, and keep shining your light.
Keep shining.